What if I told you that angels once came down from heaven to plow a man's field, simply because he refused to skip his morning prayer? This is not a fairy tale. This is the true story of a poor farmer named Isidore, a man who owned nothing, was nobody in the eyes of the world, but was everything in the eyes of Jesus. Stay with me. This story will change how you see your work, your prayers, and your life. Isidore was born in Madrid, Spain, around the year 1070. His family was poor. He never went to school. He never owned land. His entire life, he worked as a simple farmer on someone else's field. By the world's standards, he was a nobody. But Isidore had one thing that made him extraordinary. Every single morning, before the sun fully rose, before he picked up his plow, he went to church. He knelt before Jesus. He prayed, not just for himself, but for his neighbors, for the hungry, for the suffering around him, every single morning, without fail. One day, his employer heard rumors from other workers. They said, "Isidore arrives late every day. He spends too much time in church. His field must be suffering." So the employer decided to go see for himself. He woke up early and walked quietly to Isidore's field. What he saw stopped him completely. Isidore was still at church praying, but his field was already being plowed, beautifully, perfectly, and the ones doing the plowing were not men. They were angels, bright, glowing figures working the field while Isidore prayed. The employer fell to his knees. He understood in that moment. This man was not wasting time. He was doing the most important work first, and heaven was covering the rest. But the miracle of the angels was not even the most beautiful part of Isidore's life. What truly set him apart was his heart. Isidore was poor, but whenever he met someone poorer, he gave. He would share his own food with beggars, even when he barely had enough for himself and his wife, Maria. One winter, he was carrying a sack of grain to be ground at the mill. Along the road, he saw birds struggling in the snow, starving. The other workers laughed and said, "Don't waste grain on birds." Isidore said nothing. He poured half his sack on the ground for the birds. When they arrived at the mill, his half-empty sack produced twice as much flour as anyone else's full sack. He prayed for others. He gave to others. And God multiplied everything he had. Isidore never became rich. He never became famous in his lifetime. He died as a simple farmer. But after his death, miracles began happening at his grave. The sick were healed. The desperate found hope. Even the King of Spain brought Isidore's body to pray over his sick son, and the boy recovered. A simple farmer. No education, no money, no power, but he had Jesus, and that was enough. God did not look at what Isidore lacked. God looked at his faithfulness, his humility, his love for others, and heaven moved on his behalf. Maybe you are going through something hard right now. Maybe you feel like nobody sees your struggle. Maybe you feel like your prayers are not being heard. I want you to hear this today. God sees you. Just like he saw Isidore in that field. He sees your early mornings. He sees your hard work. He sees every prayer you have prayed for others, even while you yourself were hurting. Don't stop praying. Don't stop working. Don't stop loving. Because when you are faithful to Jesus, heaven works on your behalf too. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And remember, you are never alone. Jesus is always with you. God bless you.